All right, what's up,
It's a
everybody?
live fanzine.
Oh, dang,
Pre-order
effects
Ill
on
Communications' new
Danny's
record now at
screen.
I didn't do that. I didn't do
anothercityrecords.com. This
that.
12-inch features Ill Communications
Well,
remastered
okay.
EPs,
What's up,
Ode to the
everybody?
Old
Welcome
Gods,
to
and Death
another
Threats and
transmission
Hieroglyphics.
of Ill
Available now in
Comms.
3 colors with
Today we got
either
a
laser
good
printed or
episode with a
silkscreen
couple great
B-side.
records.
What's that you
Catching
say? You
up
know
with our
collect
old
vinyl?
friend Danny
Well, they also
Phillips.
have cassettes, hats, and
With me, as
shirts.
always,
Order
is
now from
our old pal Randy
anothercityrecords.com.
Diehard. What's up, Randy? How you doing today?
Good,
In the
man.
garage today, I see.
Psyched to see old Daniel over there. Dan
Good to
Hart.
see you guys.
Yes,
Randy, what's this
absolutely.
Randy?
It's short for
That's the
Randrew.
first step. He used to think that was my name.
Oh. That's awesome. I still don't even know what your last name is.
Die Hard.
It's Die Hard. That's what's on the birth certificate for sure.
Exactly.
But
That's my
anywho,
kid's middle name. Both of their middle names is Die Hard.
I like that. They're like the George Foreman of hardcore. Just everybody's named Die Hard. But anyway, Danny, how's it going, man? What have you been up to these days? Tell us a bit about where have you been, what you've been up to, how you are.
Oh, I'm doing all right. Hanging in there. Living in Lubbock, Texas now. So not too far away from you, Ryan. Just about an 8-hour drive. Or I don't know, what is it from Austin?
Yeah, just
It's like 5 hours?
It's actually pretty close to 8 hours. Because yeah, it's pretty close. At least 7 for sure.
Yeah.
Texas is huge.
Totally. I mean, Lubbock is really interesting. You know, hometown of Buddy Holly has like a pretty unique music scene going on in its own right. Haven't seen much of that just because everything's been closed down. But there's some cool little venues around here, and I talk to more people that I talk to about Lubbock. They say, "Oh yeah, we used to play. You know, like it used to be like kind of a place that bands would stop and actually like No Motive played here back in the day." So Roger was like, "Oh yeah, that's like I love Lubbock or whatever." So I'm looking forward to kind of getting more engaged in what's going on in the city. But yeah, so far so good. I think it reminds me a lot of Kern County. It's basically like it's got certain aspects of Tehachapi and Bakersfield, but with like much cleaner air and like much prettier sunsets.
A lot of cowboy hats.
Yeah, probably same density of cowboy hats and trucks.
Terrible.
But it all feels sort of vaguely familiar to me. You know, it's the strawberry patch of Texas, and Austin being the blueberry, the one exception of, you know, this liberal like cosmopolitan stronghold in the middle of everything. But there's some really nice people here, loving it so far. But yeah, but I'm missing all the friends and missing playing music and missing all you guys.
Yeah, man, we miss you too. For the fans that don't know, all 5 of you that watch this, Danny is one of the founding members of the Warriors from Tehachapi, the most successful band from Tehachapi, the best band from Tehachapi, let's be honest. And Danny plays guitar, very good at guitar. I know you have a few side projects going or still going. Are those? Can you talk about those? The Iron
Yeah. Well, they're more loosely organized. After leaving Warriors, I took sort of a break from anything music related for a while, and then started to get the itch a little bit more. So we had a few bands that we started with friends post Warriors. Most of them have been with just people who we met in that orbit, people like Roger Camaro, and obviously long-term collaborations with my brother. we love to just kind of jam out and play together. And sometimes that ends up becoming its own project. And so we had a project called, or have a project called Pillars that's kind of driven by just Donnie and I, that we recorded a few things.
That's you singing, right?
Yeah, that's Donnie and I both doing all the music writing and then the vocals as well.
But you then on that one, right?
Yeah,
that's awesome, dude. Yeah, you guys need to get that stuff on Spotify. That and Iron Trust, get all that on Spotify, man.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love to. I mean, I know it's there's not a lot of hurdles to doing that these days, but just being busy is the biggest hurdle, I guess. So if anyone wants to help us out with that, let us know. But yeah, then the other project that we're trying to kind of get going now is, I guess we're calling it Iron Trust, or there's a couple of other names kind of floating around, but jamming out with with Roger and my brother and Joe Martin and Wayne, who is just a great drummer. He played in a few bands.
Yeah, great leather worker too. Shout out Wayne.
Great leather worker. Check him out. Little company, leather goods. Great stuff. He makes BDSM implements. So if you ever need like a spanking rod for your partner,
he's a rummy champ, dude. Bright Mountain rummy champ.
Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know this about him.
Oh,
those guys they play a lot of rummy. It's awesome.
Really? That's like, isn't that something that like people who are over 80 play?
Dude, I love rummy.
Joe and him are old, dude.
I guess so. They're like old married retired couple.
Yeah, I thought for sure. I went and hung out with Joe the other day. I thought for sure that I was like, yeah, I'm gonna play him at rummy, show him how to play, and he just destroyed me. Like I didn't even come close to winning anything.
Really?
Like, yeah, he beat me and Mike pretty bad. It was hilarious.
I guess everyone has their like pandemic activity that they get really good at, like their little pandemic hobby. Like I took up house plants. Yeah, I've got like so many house plants. It's not even funny now.
Nice.
What about you guys?
I'm just working and hanging out.
Yeah, I need a hobby. This is my hobby. This is what I took up is
fun.
YouTube videos and podcasting.
Build an empire.
Yeah, for this very niche market that we have for our friends and hardcore music.
Send us $1 so we can buy a pizza.
Yeah. Patreon. You guys have Patreon yet?
There you go.
Man, we're not this is all about talking to people like you and our friends, dude. I mean, it's not costing us to do it. It's awesome. Me and Ryan talk like every day now. Not that we weren't in touch before, but it's just awesome to be in touch with people, dude, and to reach out to other people. So that's why we're doing this. So
that's awesome. That's the way to go. But if you can make $1 million at the same time, why not?
Yeah. Let me know. You think of the way to do that and we'll cut you in.
Exactly. There you go. Dude, okay, so today we're going to talk about two records.
Hold on one second. I think this will be interesting. Okay. Danny, you've basically lived and worked all over the world. I mean, this podcast is more about like what you've done with your life since.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really going to dive in what got you into hardcore, but I think it's really interesting what you and Kim have done. You've lived all over the world and you've done some awesome things. If you could just take a couple minutes and break that down. You don't get into too much detail, but just
sure,
kind of the cool stuff you were doing, man, in those different countries.
Yeah, no. So I guess, I don't know, the way I would maybe talk about it in this context is like touring for me, like when we were doing touring in the band for, way back in the early 2000s, like it really was one of the things that kind of turned me on to travel and like the possibilities of travel and seeing new places and, just experiencing cities and falling in love with with cities and all these sort of different places and people that we met. And I think that that bug kind of caught on and sort of informed how everything else happened after I ended up leaving music and then just kind of starting, going back to school and studying architecture and landscape architecture and urban planning and all this stuff, and kind of nurturing that interest through just traveling and trying to find ways to be in the world and make work in different cities and kind of experience that. So I think, after living in LA for 10 years, we left and took off to Europe for a few years. Actually, we had some opportunities over there. So we lived in Rome for a year, lived in Budapest for a year. Then we went to India for a year, came back from, did basically in the last 10 years, we've traveled to maybe 14 or 15 different countries and lived in 4 different countries. So it's been an adventure, but living somewhat rootless and itinerant for the last decade is definitely like taking its toll a little bit, and sort of excited to kind of find ourselves in a place for a while. So right now, from India, we moved back to Michigan. I started a PhD program at University of Michigan that I'm still kind of getting through, but I just recently got a job here in Lubbock as an assistant professor at Texas Tech. So it's just this whole kind of strange tapestry of different places and experiences, and living out of a van for a few years in Michigan and going through all those winters. And
you still have that truck?
Still have it. And you you definitely saw a little bit of the construction of that, but that arose really from like just remembering what it felt like to be on tour and that sort of weird freedom and the panic and freedom that comes with that, like, and wanting to kind of revisit that a little bit and use it as an opportunity to get out of debt and, be free and do something interesting for a while. And so we actually kitted out basically it's a box truck that we call Vanilla. And it is still in our possession. We use it for weekend adventures and stuff like that, but have a house of the foundation now. So it's trade-offs, like it was not all freedom and fun, but sometimes it was excruciating and painful, and sometimes it's not the greatest, most conducive environment to a marriage, I would say, in some cases, but we made it through. And we're here. So but yeah, that's kind of like the very short version of what we've been up to in the past.
You guys are doing something with water in India, right? Like finding ways to give the communities clean water real quick. I mean,
the research that I do and the research that is part of the PhD that I'm doing right now and the research that I'm bringing with me into this new job is basically about how to use urban landscapes to purify water, right? So
awesome.
It's called green infrastructure. So like all the water that's coming down when it rains, it's going off these surfaces. How do you use landscapes in the city to kind of decontaminate that before it goes into a lake or a river or, any of these types of environmental issues that are caused by that. So it's kind of like using landscapes in this way as a benefit to cities.
So you're like a genius.
No.
To me,
I'm masochistic more than anything. And, I took a vow of poverty for 5 years to pursue this. And, it's only now starting to seem like it was a good idea. But so that's the long and short of it. But let's talk about hardcore.
That music you just heard was Down the Street by Annihilation Time, off their self-titled full-length with Nardcore legend Fred Hammer on the mic. Annihilation Time CDs and massive It's Alive posters with gnarly art are available now. Direct message at It's Alive Fanzine on Instagram for details.
Yes, let's get to it. Let's get to the real important stuff in the world. Hardcore. Ryan, take it away.
Dude, yeah. So first up, as always, we usually try to pick one older record and one newer record. We usually let our guests pick first, and Danny went with Trial. You want to talk to us more about why you chose this particular record?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this was a record that dropped at a pretty formative time in my own adolescence, so this is a record that came out in 1999 on Equal Vision Records, and I can't remember exactly when I discovered it. It was probably a few years after that, to be honest. I don't think when I was in junior high and high school, I had my finger on the pulse of every Equal Vision release that was coming out that week or whatever. But it was just one of those records that just really from the production of it to the kind of lyrical content of it and the whole aesthetic of it, it was just something that really kind of spoke to me. And I actually did a little exercise in the kind of to prepare here. So I was looking at 1999. What was on the charts in 1999, right? Just to contextualize, what is the where do we situate this in the scope of popular music at the time, right? And it's
nice.
Britney Spears, Baby One More Time. That's top 100 in 1999.
Just like Trial.
Smash Mouth, All Star. LFO, Summer Girls. Will Smith, Wild West. Backstreet Boys, All I Have to Give. Genie in a Bottle, Christina Aguilera, right? That is what was in the consciousness of people at that year. And meanwhile, you have Trial dropping this record that makes it sound like it's just coming from this dystopian hellscape of the first line on the record is the wreckage of humanity has been strewn across the land and now the hour of desperation is at hand. There's the gap between Hit Me Baby One More Time and that is just could not be bigger. So there was something the contrast, the sugary pop music of the time, and we can probably all remember what life was like in 1999. There was things were going pretty well, it was maybe the apex of American society in some ways, and yet there's this band saying fuck it all, everything's fucked up. So I feel that was that really spoke to me at a time when I maybe was looking for a container for these anxious feelings or this adolescent rage that I was feeling at the time.
How old were you in 99?
I would have been in junior high, so maybe 13, 14, right?
So how
old are you in junior high? 12, 13?
Yeah, probably 12 or 13, 7th,
Yeah.
8th grade.
So, yeah, I don't know. I feel this record was just part of this emerging political consciousness that I was feeling at the time, when I was starting to maybe resist or reject some of the things that I was raised on, and I had discovered, Adbusters magazine, and I thought that, I had seen behind the veil of everything that I was taught, and this record sort of fits into that in my memory of things that were formative in that way, So, but
do you remember the first time you heard it?
I was probably sitting in my bedroom in Donnie and I's shared bedroom in Bear Valley, and we had this huge speaker system, and I think that probably would have been the first time that I heard it. But I mean, the record from beginning to end, right? Like, you guys probably revisited this record, right, this week or whatever.
Sure.
Like, the anticipation of that they're able to create from the beginning, right, where you start with like this kind of driving, like, classical interpretation of a song that is yet to come on the record, right? Like, they got some sort of 8-piece, like, full strings section, and like, it's just like it's so beautiful in a way that, like, I mean, as an intro to a record, it's just like, it could not be more epic, right? And then it goes, and then that dies away, and then you have this, like, 16th beats on the hi-hat, right?
Hi-hat, yeah.
And then, like, that builds into the, like the way that it comes in is just like so heavy, right? And I think this record is like, the way that they build that anticipation into that first song is just, to me, is like so incredible. Like, and the use of like double bass, right? The drummer of Trial.
The drum, awesome for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, the drummer of this band, I think his name is Alexia Rodriguez, right? So he plays for metal bands. Like, he's a metal drummer, right? He played for Walter Jericho. He plays for Cortez. A lot of these bands that I wouldn't, I don't listen to anymore, but like, that guy is an incredible drummer, right? So, but the way that they use double bass, to me, this record, the way that they use double bass in a really tasteful way that doesn't feel like it's overkill on the metal vibe, to me, is like, it's just like perfect. Like, so many bands, I don't think use double bass in a way that, like, isn't totally overpowering, right? Or isn't like, oh, this is a double bass band. Like, this band still, like, Trial, this record still feels like very kind of pure a pure hardcore record.
Exactly. That's what I think too.
Yeah.
Drums do get a little wild, but that's what's awesome about it. The drums dictate a lot of the tempos too. For the guitar will be doing the same thing, and then the drums will speed up and then slow or slow down.
Yeah.
Totally changes the vibe of the song, dude. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like definitely one of my top 10 hardcore records of all time. And from beginning to end, right? It's just like, there's no bad songs on it, and like, the way that they're experimenting with like these kind of peaks and valleys and what they're doing in terms of intensity is incredible, right? Not to mention, right, 21 minutes in, and there's this about 22 minutes in, that song Legacy, right, which features guest vocals from Hitler.
Yeah.
Right?
Vocals, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I mean, when you're like 12, 13 years old, you're like, what? Like, a Hitler speech is like something that like everyone sort of recognizes when they hear it, right?
Well,
but like, like, there's this moment of like, why is Hitler on this song? And it makes you want to go like dig deeper into it.
Yeah.
Because you're like, certainly they're not like, celebrating Hitler, but the song itself ends up being, kind of commentary on like, political speech, or the gullibility of people, or, like that sort of, it's kind of carrying through some sort of reinforcing some sort of theme, right? And to me, that was like, it's one of the records that made me want to read the lyrics, right? Because you're like, what's going on here? Like,
I do wish I don't have the lyrics. I wish I did, because it's all very thought provoking, and I wish I had the lyrics to even read further into it and just really grasp it. I know I had the CD at one time, but I don't have it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the CD anymore either, but there's some. I mean, it's amazing to what we have at our fingertips now.
True. Yeah.
I think even Spotify has like the lyrics that go along with it now, right? Or
really? I didn't notice
some
that.
Some songs, yeah. It's worth sitting.
Yeah.
It's worth like spending an evening with, right? Like if you can sit there with the lyrics and just like crank it up and listen to it, it's like it's a whole experience, you know.
They sequence the record really good too, with the interlude in the middle. You know, kind of brings you down to where like, oh, I'm going to catch my breath, and then it, like you said, builds anticipation up again, and then it like floors you one more time.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, I don't know where they recorded it, but you know, the production is pretty flawless. Like everything's the mix of it is just like perfect to be able to hear, you know, hear vocal, like the vocal level is like really well done. Like Greg Bennick's vocals. So Greg Bennett, of course, like he was one of my heroes, like the singer of Trial, like such a smart guy, like, you know, has done a couple of documentary films now. Yeah. And I got to meet him a couple times. Super, super nice guy. And then Tim McIntosh, of course, the guitarist of Trial, was the person who filled in for me right after I left the Warriors for a couple tours, right? So we had a chance to kind of, you know, engage with him a little bit. And I kind of wish that I had asked him more questions about like this record. Like, it's amazing how many things I should have asked him, but didn't, like with as much FaceTime as I have with him. Like super, super nice guy though too. Like,
yeah.
I think he's still doing stuff musically. I could be wrong about that, but
I know Greg Bennick is he has a band called Bystander. I don't know if you've heard it yet. They got a record on Safe Inside Records. And then he does like a super rad like guest spot on this band Rejection Pack. They're on Safe Inside Records too, but so he's definitely Greg's still doing bands and still awesome doing stuff.
Yeah. And he's like a motivational speaker too, right? Like he does like tours and corporate events and corporate speaking events and that kind of thing. So he just loves to be on stage, you know, like
his I gotta say my notes, his vocals, man, are just like, he doesn't ever like start off slow and then kind of and then back down. It's just like, dude, it's 100 miles an hour from start to finish. And it's like there's no, and he's saying like these words that I had to look up to what they meant, you know, like like I'm like, I don't even know what he's saying, but and he just, his flow, it's not even a flow, it's just like a blast, dude, just from start to finish, like 100 miles an hour, then it stops, and then I'll have this rad like talking part. They're like, oh yeah, dude, like I know that's kind of the times, but it's still, I don't know why it's at times, because it's still so rad, dude. He pulls it off.
I love talking parts, dude. I think that more people should do talking parts.
Yeah,
like whispery, sort of like layered talking parts, like where you have to like really listen in. He's making some sort of obscure reference to a civil war in a country you've never heard about or whatever. But, you know, like there's some really great stuff there.
That's good.
I love it.
You can tell too where Tim's influence came to Champion. Like you hear the Champion stuff before Tim, and then after Tim, it's like you could tell the similarities when Champion kind of had a little bit of similarities to Trial. I think when I was listening to it, I'm like, oh man, that's totally like what Champion or what Tim brought to Champion. So totally.
I mean, he's a great guitar player and loves to write music, and he's definitely got like a style, you know.
Yeah, he's doing something new. I don't know though.
I'm not sure. I would assume that I think he's still up in Seattle. But I don't know. It would be a shame if he wasn't.
Yeah, for sure. Well, now we're gonna rate it. So we'll let you rate this first. We sent you our little rating scale.
Well, to me, I don't know. Like to me, it's definitely up there in terms of like, this is like legendary Illmatic material. Like, for just this is kind of my personal list, but like I put it up there with like Refuse, Shape of Punk to Come. Maybe not quite that high, but like close. So Illmatic. What do you guys think?
Ryan?
I got this one at I wish there was an in between Illmatic and Believe the Hype, but
Yeah.
I went with Believe the Hype.
Okay.
Because I remember listening to this record so much, and it was sadly after Trial was really doing their thing.
Yeah.
Like I came across it and listened to it, and I remember being so into it. And for whatever reason, I couldn't tell you the last time I actually listened to it until we started talking about doing this episode. And I went back and listened to it, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah. Oh, the guitar tone, all the riffs, everything is so cool. And then, like you had mentioned, Legacy. When that kicked on, I was like, oh yeah. And like I remembered the words all of a sudden, and I was like, oh, this is it really is such a great record, and it's a fairly unique record because it was towards the end of like all those like militant vegan straight edge bands. Like Earth Crisis and stuff like that. But they sounded so much better than any of that stuff to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm putting it somewhere in between Believe the Hype and Illmatic, but probably Believe the Hype.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be mine too. I thought like it's like I Believe the Hype. Probably when I first heard this, I probably didn't like it because I didn't like anything heavy. When I like more like that was it. But looking back on it now, I enjoyed it. I like a lot more of the heavy stuff than I did way back in the day. But I do like that the vocals a lot of times remind me of Ryan in Control. Not obviously Ryan would have pulled from him if he did, but just similar tone maybe. But anyway, that's kind of a side note. But yeah, I really like this record. And I think they did a really cool, they really kind of bridged the gap between a heavy band and like a youth crew or a traditional band with the bass and the heaviness, and they'll sped it up. So, I couldn't quite say Illmatic just because I never saw them and I really didn't dive into it, the lyrics and stuff back in the day. So, but definitely I can see why it is Illmatic for you. And that's definitely not like I don't think anyone's going to be like, no, man, or argue with you. So,
and if they do, you guys got to help me beat them up.
Yeah. Well,
I got to see the reunion show in Seattle in 2006.
That's probably crazy.
So yeah, I can't for the life of me like remember whether I wouldn't have flown up there specifically for that. We might have actually played that show.
I think I've also posted a picture of that poster.
Okay, so I think we played their reunion show in 2006, which was just like
that's awesome
in Seattle.
Yeah,
you can imagine like just how crazy that was. So I have I can't remember our set obviously, but I can remember their set. It was incredible.
Nice.
It was like the perfect size venue. I can't remember what venue it was, but like it was just perfect. So I think they actually did a documentary film about that.
Oh, I looked it up. It's probably on YouTube or something.
Yeah, I haven't been able to find it, but I think they have it available on their website or something, or Equal Vision or someone has it on their website. So, but yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that you encouraged me to pick a record because it's not something that I probably would have like dug back out, under my own accord. So I was glad to be able to like reconnect with it and just recognize like how big of a deal it was to me at the time and still is. If I'm gonna listen to a hardcore record, that's definitely gonna be one of them.
Awesome. I picked the second record. It's Rule Them All, Dreams About on 2019 came out on Flat Spot. It was recorded by Brian McTiernan. I said that right. So it's on point. McTiernan. That's it, dude.
You're gonna get hate mail.
It's on point, recording wise, and it makes a lot of sense when I heard that he recorded it. Just because, I mean, I like this record, Long Island hardcore, which is everyone on the East Coast that's from Long Island. It's good in my book. And melodic hardcore, lyrics are kind of inward thinking, thought provoking, you know, questioning yourself, covers a lot of topics. The dude's vocals, like he's singy, but not too singy. And I kind of like that. They can go from like almost a talking singing part to like a drawn out singing. I just really enjoyed this record. So, and the name is a reference to Lord of the Rings. So that's dope. Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, this record is super cool. I remember the first time I heard it, it was literally like a year ago. I remember it because it was when I first started the job that I'm working right now. And I was going through training, and there were spots during the day where it was kind of a bit of a lull. And I would just start trying to find something to listen to. And I was looking for new bands to listen to and new hardcore, whatever. And came across this record somehow. And I remember hearing it and being like, this is really cool. Because it's melodic, but not in the way most melodic hardcore bands are. There's just something really catchy about everything on the record. And the music itself still feels very hardcore, not like they're trying to sound melodic. You know, it's melodic because of the lyrics and the way they're sung and the way the song is structured. But it's just really enjoyable. And like, I also really liked the split they did with The Fight. And I'm pretty sure, I think members are in both bands. I don't know for certain on that. But but the record itself, it's short, it's sweet, it's just a great 7-inch. What did you think, Mr. Daniel?
I mean, I was into it. It's not stylistically, it's not really my cup of tea. It's not something I would like be drawn to naturally. I don't think. I think it's obvious that there's some sort of reference to, in terms of like legacy hardcore bands. I think that there's definitely some reference to like a Turning Point or one of those types of bands, and maybe in a more contemporary way. Like I see some.
I get some Verbal Assault in there for sure. I mean,
okay,
Long Island, but
yeah. But I agree with you, Andy, about like the lyrics they have this kind of like introspective, you know, what is it? Give the power back to yourself, you know, and, you know, what else do they say? Teacher, teach me, you know, like these moments where the vocals kind of pop through and leave some sort of a kind of resonance in your head of maybe inspiring people to look at themselves in a closer way and be a better person. Or, you know, I like that in terms of that approach of hardcore lyrics. You know, of course, Posse is like a big kind of, you know, bucket of hardcore lyrics. You could put a lot of things into there, but like, I like positive, uplifting music or lyrical content in hardcore songs, because there's this interesting contrast of like, you're being shouted at, right? And so there's this intensity of like, okay, what are you shouting at me? You know, like, and I think it's always a little bit more interesting to have a positive message coming through than this kind of default, like us versus them, or, you know, vague darkness, or, you know, like these more kind of vaguely aggro themes that I think have a place. And, you know, I'm not saying that there's not a place for that in hardcore, but like, I like it when they're trying to uplift people, or they're trying to, evoke some sort of a message. Like with Trial, it was like, some very specific kind of geopolitical messages, and in this case, it's more on a personal tip. But I really appreciated
it's
those moments.
It's all a rallying cry, so to speak.
Yeah.
I thought both records were challenging, like yourself in different ways. The Trial records is political and sociological and like and then the Rule Them All was more like, hey, like look to yourself, like don't wait for someone else to pick you up. Like just I think they both kind of were challenging you, but in different ways. And I thought that was kind of cool, a cool coincidental tie-in between both bands, that they're really going at people to better themselves in different ways.
Totally.
So,
and they do walk that fine line, like you said, of like how much melodic vocals can you fit into a heavy record and still have some sort of credibility in a hardcore context. Like there's these bands that sort of walk that fine line, and some people do it better than others. Like, I think about like Comeback Kid and the way that they're able to kind of walk that line of like heavy music, but still sort of melodic sing-along parts and that kind of thing. So I could imagine that like going to see this band live would be really fun, because you would have a bunch of, you'd have a lot of like
interaction.
Yeah, a lot of interaction, and those choruses are really memorable, easy to sort of recall, and it's obvious that like they kind of intended that as something that would be easy to sing along to. It speaks to some sort of a sophistication, or the fact that these guys probably have been in bands in the past and know what works.
Yeah, they're not writing the mosh, they're writing the sing along and the crowd participation, which is I dig that. So
totally. Crowds, when is that going to be a thing again?
I think I talked to Vinny today, and he said that New York's opening up like 33%, whatever that means.
Okay.
So if you're gonna mosh, you can't mosh into anyone. I don't know. I doubt those, but
socially distanced moshing.
Yeah.
No
but
stage
imagine
diving.
how much pent up desire there's going to be in a place like Tehachapi. Like, now's the time to open up a venue, right? If anyone's listening to this who has the wherewithal to do this right now, like live music venue, independent music venue in Tehachapi, capitalize on all that angst, that built up angst. And that's a great business model right now, I'm sure.
Well, Ryan, what'd you rate
Absolutely. This one I rated at Believe the Hype, mostly because I just really enjoy the 7-inch, and I want to see what they do next for sure. Like I'm looking forward to seeing them, not necessarily grow, but like what they can do on like an LP, like what ideas they can hash out and put together on there. Because I think something tells me these guys are probably pretty creative and can do something interesting and fun. So right now, Believe the Hype for sure.
Nice. Danny?
I think I would put it somewhere between Believe the Hype and then one down from there, Short Shot, right?
Sure, yeah.
So I would probably put it as like Believe the Short Shot.
Nice. I like that. I guess you mix them together. That's good. I like that. That's where I got them at. I do their first EP they did was cool, and then that split, and then they've gotten better with each one. I don't think they're reinventing the wheel, but I really do like it, and I'd like to see the band live. And like Ryan said, I think they're only going to go up with an LP with a couple. They're going to have to write an LP, and do 10, 12 songs and have it ebb and flow and take you on a journey. So I would like to see where that happens, but I do think this band's awesome, and I look forward to seeing more from them. So
hopefully they tour outside. They venture outside of the Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah.
So we can go see them.
Yeah. Hopefully a lot of bands start touring.
Oh my God, are they going to watch this? They're going to watch this, aren't they?
I don't know.
We'll try. We'll put it on their radar.
Good.
I mean, 7 people watch it if they watched it. Oh no, there's 6 fans, so that would be 8. So, anyhow, well, that's pretty much the show. Danny, got anything else that you want to throw in there before we close out?
Thank you both. You guys are doing great work, and I wish you the best of luck. And hope to see you in person soon.
All right. Well, it's great seeing you, man. I see your guitar back there.
Yep. I haven't touched them for a while.
You need to strum up on those, bust out some leads on it. The Ill Communication LP, dude.
That's what they tell me. I gotta find some time to do that. I am serious. It is on my radar. Maybe if you can give me a couple months.
All right. You gotta talk to Joe and Roger about that. But
all right.
Well, thanks for being here, man. We appreciate you. Right. Tell Kim we said hi, and
I will. She says hi too.
All right. Awesome, dude.
Take care.
See you guys.
Bye, guys.